Hello, welcome. I am delighted to have all of you here for the Channeling Emotions Intensive today. What a pleasure to get to work with you on this topic. We're going to start today by outlining a few ground rules for our interactions and what you can expect for this course and kind of over the course of this week. Uh, then we'll do some comfort body and we'll start looking at the groundwork we need, the foundational information we need to be able to work with our emotions consciously. So, first of all, since there's only 6 of us here total, um, we can just raise hands to talk, or I think that it might be possible just to start talking, that there's few enough of us here that we can read body language and make sure that we're not going to speak over somebody, just to be aware um, of if somebody does start talking, just to be aware of that. But I think that we have a small enough class that we're going to be able to do that without having the formality of raising hands. um, let's see, this is a space of mutual support. It is not a space of judgment or criticism, and with that in mind, even doing something badly is often a great way of learning how not to do something. And so we are not making any mistakes today with our practicing. We're just learning things. We're learning what works and what doesn't work. And much like we have unconditional support when you're a partner with conscious complaining, right? You're just cheering them on. That's your role today, is to cheer the other person on with whatever they are saying. And then so we're going to work in breakout rooms when we start practicing with scenarios. You'll have a chance to practice saying whatever you're going to say, right? And then you'll switch sides. So the other person will also have a chance to practice. Then when you return to the main room, we'll just share some reflections on what happened, how it went for you, how you felt it went for you, what you noticed, that sort of thing. This is not like an art critique. Because ultimately you're the one who's going to decide what is best for you in the way that you communicate, right? I think you are all aware of what would be appropriate sharing and not appropriate sharing, in terms of we're not here to process emotions, and we're not here to process trauma. You can refer to what you were experiencing emotionally in a situation. That's absolutely okay. So, for example, um, if you got caught up in an altercation and I was talking to my neighbor over the fence and they did something I really didn't like and I felt so angry, right? That would be appropriate. But describing the specifics is not appropriate. Um, I don't think I have anything else in terms of that. I know that you're all very respectful, um, wonderful people. So I know we're gonna have a really, really juicy time. I'm very much looking forward to um, just learning more with you about this and learning from you as much as I get to usher you into doing this. So let's start with comfort body. Oh, if you haven't already, just give yourself a chance to check in with your body. Recognize that you're going to be here for a couple of hours. You will have time to take a break in the middle because sitting is, whew, it can be challenging. And also, if at any time during this session you would like to get up and move around, if you need to use a restroom or get some water or just take a break, please take care of yourself. It is completely understandable and useful and helpful and necessary. So please take care of yourself during this time. If something occurs to you that you need to do that would be helpful, please. To start with, I'd like to review some foundational emotion concepts that are they're easy to say yes to, they're easy to intellectually understand, they're not so easy to understand on an experiential level. So as I go through these things, and I'm going to go through them fairly quickly because you're all familiar with them already. If a question occurs to you, please ask it. That is the best way for the rest of us to learn. Oftentimes something that I might take for granted is something that can be a source of confusion or curiosity for somebody else. And sharing that is what is going to make this really valuable. I'm going to share my screen and 4 keys. Thank you. These are not the 4 keys. Here we are. Here's the 4 keys. So you're already all familiar with this wonderful handout. The reason I'm bringing it up is because the first key, that you are welcoming all emotions equally. This key right here is what is going to be so important to working with your emotions and to being able to channel your emotions. When you are able to check in with all of your emotions, not just the acceptable ones, right? Not just the ones that you're okay with, but to hear all of them, that's when you're getting the whole story. So being able to check in with all of your emotions is, and to welcome them, to lend your ear to all of them. That is what's going to enable you to speak most clearly and to be most clear about what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do. It is when one of your emotions is when you repress or ignore or just can't hear what one of your emotions is trying to tell you that it is most difficult to say what you want, say what you need to say. So I'd like to do something now with you. Um, I'd like to just do a little experiential practice with the 4 keys to help you understand where they reside with you in your boundary and your body. So if you would go ahead and get grounded. We can do a little body brushing. Would you like to do some body brushing? Let's start with that. It's a good way to start this practice anyway. Bringing your hands on top of your head and just gently bringing them down sides of your body, your neck, across your chest. Just getting in touch with what are you feeling, noticing. Noticing if you're holding tension. Bringing your hands down your torso, your legs, going at a speed that is right for you. Over your knees and your feet. Get up if that's more comfortable for you, or you can sit down or lay back or whatever feels right for you to be more present in your body. And now bring your hands over the top of your head and down the back of your head. Over your shoulders, backs of your arms. Down your back. Over your rear. And just let your body do what it wants to do during this time. If it wants to sigh or relax or wiggle a little bit, just let it do that. Bring your hands over the backs of your thighs, your knees, your calves, down your heels, And just letting your hands dangle there for a moment if that's comfortable. And I'd like you to use your focus and define your boundary. Make it bright, beautiful, clear. You might like to just extend your arms and remind yourself, yes, this is the space that I take up in the world. In front of you, behind you, above you. Remember the space below you as well. You may like to get up and walk around and feel how that feels around you. This is your boundary. You get to decide the size and feel of your boundary. Now, when you're ready, I'd like you to, I think if it's comfortable for you, you may like to stand up for this practice because you're going to be checking in with all of your emotions and you're going to be checking in with the emotions that are right and front and center and also the ones that are in the shadow. When you feel comfortable, when your boundary is brightly defined, invite the emotions that you feel most comfortable with to come forward in whatever way they want to present themselves. Maybe they are flashes of color, maybe there are sensations, maybe it's you feel the emotions themselves in your body. The ones that you feel most comfortable with, invite them to come forward. And as they become clear, you might like to take a moment to write or draw what you notice. Perhaps make a list. These are the emotions that you feel most comfortable with, that you welcome most easily. Now, I'd like you to ask these emotions to help you see or feel or become aware of the emotions that you're not as comfortable with. Perhaps the emotions that you hold in the shadow or that you tend to ignore or repress. Do these emotions have a specific look or feel to them? How can you recognize when one of these shadow emotions wants to come forward and has something to say?
And I'm having a hard time with this already
Hmm.
because the emotions that are most up for me are not very comfortable ones right now,
Hmm.
but they're the ones that I'm most aware of.
Okay.
So do I write those down, or
Sure.
do I write down the ones that, like, contentment and hope and those kind of positive ones?
Mm. So what I'm asking you to do is to pay attention to the emotions that are not comfortable for you
Okay.
and find a way to help yourself be aware of them in more than one way. So if they come up as a physical feeling, or if they
Mm,
come up, if you can notice them in your boundary, if you're more visual, you can notice them in your boundary as a color or a shift or a feeling in your boundary, or maybe it's a blankness. I mean,
mm,
there's all sorts of things, all sorts of ways that they can show up.
mhm.
And so, what I'm asking you to do is just find a way to be aware of those emotions um, that perhaps you've put into the shadow, that you have uh, habitually repressed or ignored, because they're going to help you get to some truths when you are communicating with yourself and also with others that you would otherwise ignore.
So I had a similar experience where there was some emotions that wanted attention, and they weren't necessarily ones that I would consider supportive or
Helpful.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I ended up doing was um, focusing, coming at it from more of a meditative state to try to change my state of mind, and then um, I've been working on trying to become aware of what emotions I am avoiding.
Uh-huh. Excellent. So the intention of this practice is just to increase your awareness, your emotional awareness of what's going on within yourself. A lot of times, our interactions with other people are often a reflection of what's going on with us internally. And when we're not clear internally what is important to us, or um, why we're acting a certain way, right? Maybe why this particular, having a particular dish is so important to you, or why it is so aggravating when your partner leaves dirty dishes on the counter. You know, there's always that internal component to consider in your interactions as well. And often that internal component comes from neglecting our own emotions, ignoring or repressing. And so many of us have been taught to repress what we feel because it is not appropriate for the situation, or because it's a negative emotion. And that just means that the person who taught you that did not know what this emotion was for, and they probably didn't know how to deal with it. They probably didn't have any tools for learning how to deal with situational depression or hatred or the suicidal urge or even just feeling sad. And part of what channeling is about is understanding that, oh, I have emotions coming up. I'm just going to give them space, see what they have to say. Sometimes what they have to say conflicts with what I'll use myself, what I like to think about myself, what this idea I have of who I am or how I function. I mean, one of my ongoing stories is that I am a tough climber chick. I am indestructible, and that I can work without stopping. I'm a little Energizer bunny, and all of those things are false about me. But I had this idea for so long. I fed into this idea of who I should be based on people outside of me, right? Not, it didn't come from within me. But because of this idea, it was very hard for me to listen to my situational depression, which said, "Hey, I'm exhausted. I can't keep this up anymore. I need a break." And the part of me that was listening to this ideal of who I thought I should be was like, "I can't take breaks." Until my situational depression made it so that I didn't care about anything. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm done. I can't do that. I'm just gonna sit here and not do anything for a while. The rest of these keys here, understanding intensity, identifying quantity, those often come with using your emotional vocabulary list. As you are able to use your list and recognize where you are, just the way that it's organized is really handy because it is organized in levels of intensity, right? Soft, medium, and then intense emotions. And then the fourth key, learn how to channel your emotions. That's what we're here for. And I also want to bring up that expressing and repressing your emotions are also valid ways of working with your emotions. It all depends on the situation. Sometimes it is not appropriate to express your emotions. Sometimes it's not appropriate to channel your emotions. And sometimes it's just not appropriate to repress them. So it depends on your own discretion, right? And that's what we're going to be working with today. So how did that practice go for you? I'm curious. And I'd also like to hear. I appreciate you, Catherine and Mike, for your questions. Those I think were really helpful in clarifying. And then also highlighting the kind of unconscious bias we have against certain emotions. Something that you will be working with in this course is coming up against old contracts, underlying contracts that may not be appropriate for you. They might be outdated or they might not be realistic. And so keeping track of when you notice, oh, hey, I'm having a lot of resistance to feeling this emotion right now. That's an excellent indicator that you're coming up against a contract. Yeah, Deborah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Jim, for leading us just getting into it. I appreciate that. And it was both surprising and not surprising what I experienced, because the way it was being presented, I might have expected something different than what I feel like I experienced was something very upside down. So the most easily accessible emotion for me in that moment when we were standing there was depression, which initially surprised me. And then it led me on this little merry path of the emotions that are hardest for me to access are joy, happiness, feeling good. All this other stuff is way easier to access, but it's the depression that's the mediator that kind of keeps those things separate. And it's the whatever I'm realizing I perceive the danger in those better emotions. In those particular emotions, depression is acting as that helper, I think, so that I don't risk what I perceive the danger is in having those emotions and how they can be, ripped from me by other things. Anyway, a lot to explore there. And so I just really appreciate that we just really got right into it. No messing around. Yeah. So, and that's why I'm here, is because this provides a container to explore this that I might not necessarily do on my own as often as I'd like. So thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Could I ask for clarification? Deborah? Hi,
Sure.
I'm Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Because I think that's exactly what I came up against when the question was asked, what are you most comfortable with? All these negative ones came up that I don't want to deal with, but are there. And the happiness and the joy is harder to access for me right now in my life anyway. And you're saying that the depression keeps the happiness and joy from surfacing?
No, for me anyway, I don't think that's the case. I think depression comes up to, I'm going to use the word protect loosely, to protect me from the risk of other emotions, more painful emotions that I might feel if I actually allowed. It felt dangerous, like the concept of the idea of allowing joy seems so bright. Like even now, I can feel my throat closing up. You guys can probably feel it too. Like that's so dangerous, to be happy, to be joy. I feel like crying. To be joyful, that feels really dangerous to me right now, which is crazy. I'm very comfortable here, So that's when I said the depression, I think is I'm sure there's some contracts in there. I'm sure there's some stuff in there, but I also feel like it's that mediator trying to save me from possible disappointment, loss, grief, having things taken from me, perceived. If I don't have them, you can't take them. Right? So I know, but
Thank you. No, totally. I'm there with you.
Yes,
all right.
I am too.
I agree.
All right.
That, about the fear of being happy, is that it will be based on like a misperception, or that somebody will snap at me because I'm happy, or, whatever.
That it will get taken away. That's
Yeah.
what it is for me.
Yeah. I actually have a memory of that from when I was a child, of being totally joyful and jumping up I was picking up pecans and throwing them up in the air and being told, stop it, pick those up and put them in a bucket. So it's real, that shutting down. Sorry if that was sharing too much.
No, that was all right.
Felt good to me. Felt felt familiar to me.
Yeah, thank you.
I think as a protection, what we do is we find that when we're little, we love good things and nice things come and good people come, and wham, when they're taken away or something disappointing happens, you don't know what to do. So you say, all right, it's dangerous. So good becomes dangerous to me. Love becomes dangerous to me. And so I find now the biggest thing getting ready for this class was I want to stop sabotaging myself. It's I who do it. And I do it to avoid getting judged, just like Deborah said, or was very similar to what she said. If you don't be happy, then it can't get taken away.
Yeah.
Brings tears.
Yeah.
But that's how a 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 10, 13-year-old sees the world. And until we begin to feel our feelings and be able to go with eyes that I think I've had closed all my life, I'm not going to see anything different. But in the last class, I began to see something different. And I began, and she would say, well, stay there? Or are you, where do you really want to be? Or where are you really going? And it's all new stuff.
Mm, thank you.
So this was funny. So when I stood up, and Anshin said the most comfortable emotions that you could call forth, and I was able to call forth shame and guilt without even a thought, without even a hesitation. And I went, oh, okay. And then I had to look it up, and it names all of the qualities of these fabulous emotions. And one was humble, hesitant, reticent, self-conscious, withdrawn. And I go, yep, yeah, it's been the most familiar clothing to put on, because it is protection, and it has guided me with the rules. Don't do anything that will stand out. Don't be the child that is drawing attention with her joyfulness or even her angers. And then I realized the joy, the happiness is the contentment. They feel like they're not, I don't know, they could be tricky. And especially the angers, those are also not allowed too. So this is lovely. It's kind of like, what decisions did we make to keep from hurting more? This is so good to hear what everyone's saying, because we're talking about a child that became conditioned very early on about life. And perhaps it's the invitation to be with each other and experience safety and trust and contentment that is going to help the child heal. And we can come out and play now. Never too late. I hope.
I felt all those things, and I think we're pretty much in the same boat. And maybe Anshin would say a lot of people are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And so what I learned when the pandemic came, I signed up for a course online that said your child is in the driver's seat, whether you know it or not. And it needs an adult to be the
Driving.
rightful driver who knows the rules, who has lived a little bit. And so there's a part of that of us in it, but we're the kids still driving.
Yeah.
So to have a loving, caring adult that is kind, it nurtures, that's what for me felt good. And I had to learn, this child had to get used to having this adult and used to being told things, because I wanted to run it all. And so that concept of adult was kind of helpful. And I think maybe that's where the emotions are coming in. The adult has the emotions.
Mhm. Your adult also has so many more resources than your child self.
Yes.
When you are children, you are dependent upon the adults in your life, and you don't have a lot of choices. When you're an adult, you do have many more choices. And it is your process of becoming an adult that separates you from childhood. And it also gives you that autonomy that you didn't have as a child. So now, as an adult, you can reclaim the child that you were, the child that wasn't taken care of the way that you needed to be taken care of. And you can take them with you now.
Yeah.
Hmm. One of the PDFs I gave you, the daily emotions chart. If you're able to print that out, I'd like you to keep that for this week to help you just be aware. And honestly, you might be feeling all of the emotions all of the days.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in this to feel your emotions. And the more that you can feel them, the more that you can become familiar with what they feel like when they come up.
Mm-hmm.
You are getting to know different pieces of yourself. You're getting to know all of yourself. Because in a way, your emotions, all of your emotions represent all these different pieces and parts of yourself. It sounds to me like your happiness and joy, Deborah, Judy, Catherine, Mike, is hiding in this child self of yours, right? And they don't know that it's safe for you to be happy now. However, as an adult, you have the ability to set the boundaries for yourself, where you can say, I'm happy now, and it is okay for me to be happy. You can decide how you want to express that happiness or that joy. You have that capability now. You have so much power as the adult that you are.
But I have a contract in the way.
You might, yes.
I had a pet, a beautiful little chick that I just loved at Easter time. It was a very nice surprise, and my mom killed it. And this was like the little piece of delight in my life because a lot of people weren't around. And I said to myself, I won't be happy. I'll never be happy out of respect for this animal. And that was a contract, I realize now. And so if I can somehow mourn that and put that into the river, it'll be a real gift.
These things that happen to us when we're young are so important. They shape who we are.
Yeah.
And as we can reclaim them and rewrite our stories for who we are now, you're doing the work of integrating yourselves. As we think about the practice of channeling emotions, of being aware of all of our emotions in different scenarios, I'd like to bring up the topic of having expectations and what are realistic expectations for this practice, for practicing. I think that perfectionism is something that is often unspoken and unconscious, yet it is often foisted on people, especially people who tend to be highly empathic. We're very sensitive and aware. And so I just want you to check in. And if you notice that you have any feelings of shame around, I should be better at this, right? Or I should know this about myself, or I should already be able to do this, just notice it. Write it down if you want to, as a way to honor that thought, but without having to give it your attention and energy. In a way, all of us in this course are in a ritual. We're in a ritual of awareness and of reclamation. Letting go of who we thought we were, what we thought we had to do. And we're coming into who we are, what we are capable of, with the strength and the knowledge of all of our emotions with us. this is going to be an intensive week because you're going to be working with your emotions, and it may not be something that you're used to doing all the time, but we're doing it for 3 hours or 6 hours this week. And we are witnessing each other through this. We are watching each other with the kindness in our hearts and the knowledge in our minds of what they're going through. So I ask that you be gentle with yourself. Yeah, Judy.
The word channeling, I think I know what means, but before we get started, if you'd kind of give me the right twist on it used here in this class.
Yeah. In this context, channeling refers to the ability to tap into what is already there, what is already flowing through you, and be able to speak from that space.
Great.
Oh, wow. Already there. Let's speak.
This is why being welcoming of all of your emotions is really important. Because if you're trying to avoid or repress or ignore certain emotions, or if you express them just to get rid of them, then you are putting blinders on to a part of yourself. And it might be a part of yourself that you don't like or don't want to know. That's very possible. But wouldn't you rather know all of yourself rather than be surprised by the skeleton in the closet? Experience talking here. Okay, so I would like to start with a scenario, and I would like to start just by sharing the scenario with all of you, and then giving you an example of what that could look like. However, I don't want to suppress the genius in your own handling of this, because I don't want you to think there's only one way that you could handle things. So what I'd like to do first is I'd like to pair you up. I'll make 2 pairs, and then the odd person out can pair with me. And we'll go into breakout rooms. We will each have 5 minutes to kind of work through this scenario. And you can use all the tools at your disposal, right? All the things that we've talked about, all the tools that you use or the practices that you already use to help you regulate your emotions. And then after 10 minutes, we will come back and we'll just, talk about how it went. Yeah, Deb. We'll have 5 minutes each. So you're going in pairs. So each person will have 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, you'll switch. So you'll have to be aware of the time. And I'm going to start. Breakout rooms. Okay. So I'm going to start these rooms, and then okay, good. Before I do you have any questions? Oh, Of course, I need to give you the scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. Okay, so your scenario today is you are standing in line. The person behind you continually creeps up on you slowly. It seems like they don't realize it. And you're going to be in line for a while. How do you handle this situation? So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. Does anybody need me to repeat the scenario?
Anton,
sure.
I'm wondering, is this what we would do just instinctually, or what we would plan to do if we were emotionally competent?
The whole point of
Or is it just what? Go ahead.
the whole point of this is to practice, right? You no doubt already know what you would do, like reactively, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
So what you are doing now is you're going to instinctively practice with the tools and practices that you have available to you.
Okay. Okay.
And don't worry, this
Thank
will get more structured as we go on. But let's start here.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions before we start?
Would you repeat it one more time, Angela?
Absolutely. Yes. You're standing in line. The person behind you is slowly creeping up closer and closer to you. It seems like they're not aware of this.
Uh-huh.
You'll be standing in line for a while. How do you handle this situation? Oh, here we go.
A question about the sheet.
Oh, yeah.
Anton, do you just like check off every time you feel? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. You can use it. You can check in once a day,
Mhm.
or you can use it as a kind of a constant awareness thing where you just give a hash mark every time you feel anger, for example. Oh, I was angry. Oh, I feel angry still. Oh, I'm still angry. All right. But again, oh, it's back again.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna have to close this room. I think they've been in there for an extra minute.
Hi, Romero.
I know. I wish I could just be gentle with it. Oh, I see. I see. That still gives them 60 seconds. Okay. So they still have a gentle coast to the. Now's a good time to take a bathroom break, get up, walk around. Oh, breathe, get some water, whatever you need to do. I'm going to have a stretching break.
Are we taking a break,
Yep.
Anton? Okay, good. I was
take a
gonna have
break.
to excuse myself for a minute.
Do. Welcome back. We're just going to take a quick break. So stretch your body, go use the restroom, do what you need to do for the next couple of minutes. right, welcome back, Deborah, Candace.
Anshin, is the daily emotional chart that you were talking about, was that part of the 3 PDFs that you sent us?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have sent you 4 PDFs.
Oh, 4. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe I didn't see the 4th. Okay, perfect. I feel like such an adult that I was able to copy them immediately to my printer, and I put them out, and and then I've got them in this notebook, and I'm going, oh my gosh, Anshin, congratulations on this. This to me this is part of your review of, yes. I just feel like I'm in the best class I've ever been in.
Oh, wow.
No, really, because it's permission to, wow, it's just permission to feel everything that's going on in here.
Absolutely.
And when we're so busy with our contracts of being something to everybody else, we don't get the opportunity to feel like this. What a lovely, lovely gift you've given us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
had to say that.
Thank you. Oh, Judy, I muted you. Go ahead and unmute yourself. There's just a little bit of background noise coming from your video.
It's huge what we're learning. And it does take practice. You know, I think I get a little picture of it and I think, oh, I've got it. And then turn around and I don't got it. And then I need a comment from Anshin to say, well, perhaps you need to look again and see what's really there, which she did say. And I did look again, and that was just what I needed. But we're in this all together, and to have this intensive after a week or so of the other class, we've had a week to kind of go on or fly on our own and realize what we do need. So, want me to mute it again?
Nope, nope, you're fine.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'd like to check in with you about how did your practice go? What were you feeling to start with? What can you identify some of the emotions you were feeling to start with when you were just beginning to figure out what am I going to say? How am I going to deal with this situation?
I'll do it, because the first thing I realized was, uh-oh, I don't know what to do here. So I'm going to use the tools that we know, and I'm going to feel like I'm getting really grounded in my body. And then I'm going to push the energy back. So I was just doing energetic stuff internally. Mm-hmm. Because I honestly didn't have any idea what I was going to say other than jumping out at somebody. But I knew that I had to do that part first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. So it sounds like you were able to stay grounded and check in with, well, what do I need?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes.
I did the opposite. I just went ahead and started and forgot all about grounding and setting a boundary. I had an idea about how to do it, and I'm pretty diplomatic, so I think I did well. And then Candace said, well, I set a boundary, and I said, I wish I had. That would have really been better. So then we did it in a little more, and we did it, and it worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah or Mike, how did it go for you? I'm curious. You're being very quiet. Did it not go? That's okay to share too, because we learn a lot from our failures, honestly.
Well, for me, it was I kind of already had an idea of of what I would expect myself to do. And we talked about finding different options. Just, I rattled through what I thought I would do, and then Deborah asked me, well, what other options might you have? And, well, that's a good question. And so we discussed that for a little bit, and just kind of went on from there.
Mhm.
Thanks, Deborah.
How do you feel about how you ended up responding?
Responding to what?
To the scenario.
Well, I've had similar situations, so I think my prediction would be fairly accurate, but like you said, you never know until you get there. And Deborah brought up the point that a lot of it is just going to depend on the space you're in at the moment.
Yeah.
And how you're feeling.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mike was so great to work with. I don't think he meant to do this, but he very helpfully and kindly busted me, which was fantastic. Because we were talking about different options. We were talking about the space that we're in. I was talking about it would depend on the situation. It would depend on if it was a woman or a man, someone young, a child or older, someone who was, of color or white. To me, there's a lot of different ways about how I might go about handling it, even to the point of possibly protecting someone else in line. And Mike he very gently and beautifully, so succinctly, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like, and would you be doing that for them or for you? So awesome. And I loved that. I love that we were able to really stretch the scenario into some different ways so that we got that look inside. So thank you, Mike. That was great. It's so funny that this is such a simple scenario and something that happens all the time, right? Or could happen at any time. And yet so much goodness, good stuff out of it. So yeah, great.
It's like the layers of complexity increase.
Very, very illuminating. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Something that I agreed to do. I worked with Catherine, and the breakout rooms that you were in were not recorded. The one that I was in with Catherine was recorded, but I will take that out to preserve her privacy before I post this video. But I wanted to give an example of how I might channel my emotions in this scenario. And I want you to understand first that this is completely dependent upon my values, right? What is important to me? And what is my priorities, what is most important to me too. So I'm standing in line, person behind me continues to creep up unconsciously, and I'm gonna be standing here for a while. How do I handle this? Well, first I'm going to get grounded and really feel into my body and feel, where am I comfortable? Where am I not comfortable? I'm going to define my boundary and feel what my emotions are trying to say. And my first action is I'm going to look around me and see if I can just move up a little bit and maintain a respectful distance in front of me, but to create more distance behind me. Now, if that doesn't work, if this person continues to kind of just creep up, those cars that just keep creeping, then I'm going to turn around and with a smile, but I also might put my hand out like this. And I might say, do you realize that you are getting closer and closer to me? I would appreciate it if you would stand back. And I also
Wow.
might try to make a joke out of it, right? Because I'm thinking that they probably aren't aware of what they're doing. And I know that I've done this too. You know, you just kind of, your herd mentality, I'm just moving. Right. So to add a little bit of humor to the situation. Now, this is my response if I'm feeling comfortable in myself, if I'm not feeling threatened or like I might be in any kind of danger. But say, for example, the person behind me is a very large, tall person, and they're not really bothering to wear their mask very well. Then I might turn around and I would have to raise my voice because oftentimes the tall people, they often just don't hear me. I get overlooked very often. I'm only about 5'2", so people look over my head all the time. So I would have to raise my voice. I might even wave my hand in the air, right? And I would say, "Hi, would you mind stepping back, please, to maintain a 6-foot distance?" And I would just try to be very clear about that. I would also try to add a little humor to it, right? And this can be a risk because my brand of humor isn't everybody's brand of humor, right? But at the same time, I'm aware that I am a small woman and that I'm not going to intimidate anybody, right? That I have to use my emotions and that I have to use the skills that I have to essentially get what I want, to make what I want happen, to make that happen. Now, if I felt really threatened by this person, I might just leave the line.
Mhm.
Because to me, having an intense altercation about this isn't worth my peace of mind, or feeling like I might be threatened in a situation.
Yeah.
And just having that perspective of, I'll just come back a different time, or I don't have to subject myself to this. Now, I mean, we could go into a discussion about how I shouldn't have to feel that way, but this isn't a class about feminism, so. we'll continue on. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments about this?
I
Yes.
just want to make a quick comment about that though, Anshin, because it's so in a way liberating to stepping outside of whether it's fair or right or good or whatever, and stepping into having skills that are bona fide and can be used even in a patriarchal society. I think isn't really empowering. I think it's really empowering.
Great. I'm taking my choices.
Exactly.
I'm aware of my choices because I'm listening to all of my emotions and I'm choosing what do I want my day to look like, right? Do I want to have a potentially intense interaction with this person,
Wow.
or how do I want to go about these things?
Anjan, the thing that I felt when you were saying to them that you were going to just put your hand up, and depending, let's say they were assertive, let's say they were aggressive, okay, and you were able to have such clear boundaries about your own value, that was like, oh my gosh, this feels bold and full of strength and full of what's the word, confidence. And I really like that. I think that would be a good practice for me to start doing. Practice saying no.
Yes.
or saying what I want, what
Yeah.
I want. Yes. So thank you. That was interesting to have felt that unfamiliar what you were saying. And I'm 5 foot, probably less than 5'2" now, but it's so true. It's like nobody hears me when I'm talking unless I get bigger in my volume of voice. And so I think that's important for me to realize
Mhm.
and okay to do.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, you might also try playing with the size of your boundary. What happens when you make your boundary bigger? What happens to your gestures and the way that you carry yourself and
Oh.
the sound of your voice?
Wow. I'd be like a lion in the middle of a bunch of
Cats
people.
are a lion.
Amazing. This is great. This is great. Wow. Love it. Wow.
Really interesting how 3 groups did things so differently in one simple little thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
Like we never really thought of all the different kinds of person that could be in back of us,
mhm,
like Deborah and Mike did.
mhm.
We just kind of assumed it was another adult. We weren't sure what the situation was and how they would react, so we did kind of do that. But
Yeah.
it's and having a boundary gives one time to think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or space to think.
Yes. And you have that in this place where we're practicing, right? You don't have to respond right away. You have the time to muddle things through in your mind and in your body and with your boundary and get grounded. What's going on with me? Why am I panicking? What is going on? This isn't a panicking situation. What is coming up for me? Right? So you have time to check in with yourself
Mhm.
and find out where is this coming from? Is this related to this situation or is this related to a situation from the past? Right? Or wow, I'm all of a sudden really angry at this guy. Why am I so angry? It's really, I mean, okay, so it's it's not what he's doing right now, but it is a collection of things that are leading up to this point that I haven't dealt with. So as you get to know your own emotions, you are better able to be aware of them in the moment and handle them in the moment, to acknowledge them and work with them in the moment so that they don't build up and kind of overflow into inappropriate moments, right? I mean, at the grocery store, we're just trying to buy our groceries. We're not trying to change the world or anything. Right? And oftentimes, something Deborah you brought up is important. It depends on how you feel too, right? So if I'm like, I'm exhausted, I am so out of my head right now, I do not want to deal with this. I'm just gonna find a different line, or I'm just gonna like put my head down and go through and like whatever, I'll be fine. Yeah, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we made plans to save the world, but we only had 45 seconds yet. So we didn't get very far.
Well, you started, I thought about it.
Okay. So we've got about 30 minutes left, and something I would like to do is to have you break out your intelligence and your emotions handout. And this is the one that has the gifts of the emotions on it.
Mhm.
Let's see. There it is. This is what it looks like. Oh, this is backwards. Yes, that one. And now I'd also like you to get out your emotional vocabulary list. And I'm going to have you do just a couple of emotions for this. And this will be part of your homework. But what I want you to do is to choose an emotion that you are comfortable with, that you feel comfortable accessing and calling forward and working with. and look it up in the intelligence inside your emotions. So say, for example, you're looking at anger. Like, oh, I'm comfortable feeling angry. Now look at the gifts. The gifts of anger are honor and conviction, healthy self-esteem, proper boundaries, healthy detachment, and protection of self and others. And your gifts might be a little different than mine, because we update our PDFs periodically.
Yeah,
And
mine doesn't read the same.
yes, okay. I'll look and see if I have the most recent PDF for the intelligence in your emotions. And I apologize ahead of time that I didn't check that beforehand. So I'll make myself a note to look that up and send that to you today.
Ours says the anger family tells you when a boundary has been crossed or a rule has been broken. These emotions help you set behavioral guidelines for yourself and others.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then down below that, there should be a heading that says understanding the angers. And then
No.
a specific
Oh, way down. Oh, I see. Further down.
Yeah.
Okay.
a specific
Thank you.
category for anger itself.
Okay.
So anyway, these gifts, I want you to take these gifts. So I'm using the example of anger, and I want you to look at your emotional vocabulary list now and open to the anger, apathy, and hatred list. And I'm going to have you modify your emotional vocabulary list to add the gifts of anger to it. So the first one, honor and conviction. I would say that for me, they might be mood state anger is honor and conviction. What does it feel like for you?
Wait, you've lost me.
Yeah,
I'm
me
on
too.
the vocabulary list.
Yep.
And I'm going to anger.
Yep.
And it's soft, medium, and intense.
That's right. And I'm going to have you add the gifts in anger from the intelligence inside your emotions handout.
Okay.
I'm going to have you add that list of gifts to the vocabulary for anger.
Great.
Okay.
On your vocabulary list. Now, I'm thinking that honor and conviction are medium state vocabulary. What do you think?
Huh.
What would you feel like for you?
I don't understand why you picked them. Was that just something you picked?
We're going to put all of the gifts of anger into the emotional vocabulary list for anger. I picked the honor and conviction because that's at the top of my list.
Okay.
So the next one is healthy self-esteem. I think that could be in soft or mood state.
Healthy self-esteem. Hmm. I see what you're doing.
The next one is proper boundaries, which seems to me it's not so much of a soft mood or intense state, or medium or intense state. It's more of a that's more of a skill state. Doesn't that seem to you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely see it under intense.
Proper boundaries. Mm-hmm. See, I feel like that could be across the board.
Yeah, I do too. That's true.
I'm just writing it at the underneath all of it, or
Mhm.
underneath anger. Let's see, the next one is healthy detachment.
Hmm. That's going to be, that could even be intense.
Absolutely, yes,
Oh, okay. Oh, good. All right.
I don't know. I see that across the board as that one as well.
I do too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that is more of a signal of you being clear about your boundaries. The healthy detachment helps you. You're clear about your values, right? You're clear about what's important to you and what's not important to you.
I think detachment is more difficult to implement the more intense the emotion gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the more jumbled your emotions are, right? The more that there's shame involved, or the suicidal urge, or maybe there's some happiness and joy there too. I mean, talk about confusing. Or maybe there's envy. I mean, that can be a very hard one to feel detached from. The last one is protection of self and others. And that seems like a value to me.
I put it in both of I put it in the medium and intense.
This seems like it is something that you would want to do in its soft state as well, because that is when it's easiest to implement.
Hmm.
To protect yourself, instead of having a more intense emotion come up, you might just say, oh, and can I get a receipt with that?
That's good.
And I'm a little confused. All these things you're giving us, we should say whether it was soft, medium, or intense, or all. I'm not sure how we handle these things you're giving us.
Mhm. Yeah, I may have um, made it a little too complicated. What I'm asking you to do is to integrate the gifts of anger
Yep,
into the vocabulary for anger.
yep.
And the way that I thought we could do it is by looking at the gifts and deciding where do they fit
Okay.
in these different intensities, soft,
So,
medium, or intense states.
all right. I didn't get the picture that these were gifts. I'm just sitting writing them down. I didn't get the picture they
Okay.
were gifts. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm actually seeing this, Anshin, and I wish I understood this so many years ago. I really do, because to see with really, really intense anger and some of the words that are there, like just outraged. And instead of like focusing on the outrage, understanding there was a definite boundary issue there.
Right.
Instead of yelling at someone, I'm outraged, I'm having a boundary issue. I mean, just in my own mind would have made a huge difference, which I think is what you're talking about, right? So, I mean, huge difference, because being angry was not allowed. But at the time people were starting to talk about boundaries, that was a good thing.
Ah, right.
So
So
it's
finding a way to be able to talk about or to express what you're feeling in a socially acceptable way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
or even in a way that felt more accessible or acceptable to myself at the time, I think could have been really helpful. So this actually is a very helpful exercise. I like this.
A lot of these emotions, vocabulary words have kind of emotional baggage attached to them,
Mhm.
right? Like when you just mentioned outraged, I'm outraged, right? Well, if you're a man who's outraged, that's taken differently than if you're a woman who's outraged.
Or if you're a white person or a person of color, that's taken differently too, isn't it? Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So, I mean, all of these words have a lot of, oh, history.
Oh,
Maybe they just need a lot of letting go. So we just did the gifts of anger. And over the course of the week, I would like you to continue doing this for the rest of the emotions. And maybe it's more of a bigger ongoing project as you get to know the different gifts and the emotions. And as you integrate them into your emotional vocabulary list, then you are developing a more personal relationship with those gifts. So this is not something to do by rote, but this is something to let yourself experience as you do it. Now, we do have an option. We could do all of the angers today together. Would you like to do that? Or would you be able to take time to do this on your own? And then we have time for one more scenario today. What would you prefer?
I'd like to work with the angers.
I would too. That's just me.
How about
Yeah,
other
I
people?
like angers.
Okay, let's listen to the angers then. For the next one, let's look at apathy. So apathy is the emotion that teenagers go to, or that we go to. We're like, oh, I can't have that. I don't want it. Right? It's a way of setting a boundary when you don't have a lot of choices. So the gifts of apathy are detachment. And you're going to be writing on the same vocabulary list, right? Anger, apathy, and hatred.
Mhm.
And let's see, the detachment is already here. We already wrote that one down.
Mhm.
Boundary setting, it's already here. We already wrote that one down, right? Proper boundary, healthy
Is
detachment.
there a difference between detachment and healthy detachment?
That is a good question. Yeah, yeah. I'm actually curious now why it's healthy detachment with anger and just detachment with apathy.
mm.
um,
Because they're talking about separation. I think it's physically removing yourself. Maybe it's more of a physical thing than a mental or focus thing.
I think also with apathy, it can be more of a almost like a panic thing. Like I need this for myself, and I'm gonna create this boundary in whatever way I have possible, whatever way I can, even if it's not respectful or healthy, right?
Mhm.
If you look at the example of teenagers, they're often setting boundaries in unhealthy ways and in disrespectful ways, right? But they don't have the skills to do it in a respectful way. So I think for me, when apathy comes up, that's my inner teenager saying, like, I don't feel like I'm in control of this situation, so I'm going to take control by not caring.
Wow.
Kind of like passive aggressive in
Yeah.
a way.
Absolutely. Right. And I'm not even going to tell you why I'm unhappy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's a way of maintaining control, right?
Yeah.
If you were to tell them, then you would be expressing your anger, which is it's partly vulnerability as well. You're sharing what you care about.
Oh,
So where would that one go? That could go under all three, right?
Yep.
No? Yeah.
I would say yes.
oh.
So not caring just takes you out of the loop, just is a defense that isn't maybe the best, but it emotionally helps you find a safe place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you
Well,
don't have choices.
one way, if you don't tell them what you're angry about, they can't try and counter it. So you're maintaining control that way.
Yeah.
With healthy detachment, you're stepping back so you can have a better perspective about what's going on and try to be more productive in the situation. The other one, you're trying to maintain control. I suppose you can say that about both, but
Mhm. Yeah, really good point.
And you might really care very deeply, but this is where you go right here in this given situation.
Because you feel you have no control over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be heartbreaking to watch something happen. You don't have control over it. And it can be self-preservation to step back and pretend like you don't care, just to be apathetic. Right? There's the song, I Am an Island.
Yeah.
And that's, we do these things because we are trying to protect ourselves. So it's a method of protection. I mean, ultimately, it's called the mask for anger, right? And you can kind of think of it as apathy as the flip side for anger, when taking action isn't allowed.
Yeah. It's very easy. You almost can take your sheet, your daily check sheet, and you can look, and the things that are very comfortable for you are what you know. And there's some that you feel like you have no facility with. And it's either you're there or you're not looking, but you're there.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Is apathy is a word I would never use about a way that I feel. I wouldn't. So I'm really glad we are going over this, because now I see I use that all the time.
Yeah.
I do remove myself. I take time away. I need time away. Everybody's nodding their heads. All of us sensitives. I need that physical time away from everybody else's energies.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't had this conversation, I would never make a
No.
check under apathy. And my guess is I'm going to make a lot of checks under apathy now
Yeah.
that I understand it's that feeling. I don't feel in control of this situation, so I know how to cope. I just remove myself, and then I'm okay. So that's great.
And there can be a contract connected with that.
I'm sure more than one.
Yeah. And then that, this helps you get out of it. Then you say, okay, I do it, but what am I going to do with it? So you find the contract, you decide on a new contract, and that to me helps you get out of it.
Huh?
If you choose to.
Right, you can change
I just don't think we have a real understanding in general. I didn't have a real understanding of apathy at all.
I didn't either, but I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at it.
You're already an expert.
Yeah. May not want to be, but sorry I had to be, but it was helpful.
Yeah.
And now it sucks.
Right. Now you're ready to change. You're ready to change, to look at that contract. As we're going through these emotions, pay attention to any sense of you have of resistance, or if you're having a hard time paying attention. Those can be signs that you have an underlying contract that doesn't feel right anymore, that you may want to look at and reassess.
Well, I want to thank, I think it was Mike who had the question about the difference between detachment and healthy detachment and the
Yes.
separation, because that really helped me see that there's a difference between I'm only going to do the best with what I have versus, being able to work flexibly with the emotions and have more choices.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's really
Take
helpful.
out resources too.
Mhm.
Right? So
Mhm, exactly.
I mean, apathy is all about withdrawal. All of
Yeah.
these gifts and apathy, detachment, boundary setting, separation, taking a time out. It's all different
Mhm.
words for stepping back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whereas anger is much more about action.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah. I bet that's what I do is I push myself up into the action, which will feel more comfortable for me
Mm,
than being in that out of control place.
right.
I think those are two good words, Anshin, to add to that list, that those descriptions, withdrawal and action. That really makes a difference to look at them like that.
Mhm.
And also with anger, priorities was a good word.
Yes, priorities is a great word for anger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's look at shame and guilt. Shame is about restoring integrity. Generally, it comes up when you've overstepped your bounds or when it is trying to prevent you from doing something that you know is a bad idea. It can come up in the sense of questioning yourself. Is this really a good idea? Or it can come up after you've done something in that sense of the shame. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Can't believe I just lost that pair of earrings I was borrowing. Or I can't believe I just dripped paint on my new pants. Or I can't believe I I can't believe I stole the cupcake that I really wanted. They'll never notice, but I did it. Oh, right. Shame is a very individual emotion. It's completely dependent on your own conscience and sense of internal values or integrity. So let's see. There's a different section for emotion words for shame and guilt. So let's go to that section. The first gift for shame is atonement.
My sheet, it says integrity, so I have a different sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I will send you an updated sheet.
Okay.
Today. Yes, integrity is also on my sheet.
And atonement would be making amends, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you can put that down too. It's a good way.
It's there.
Oh, is it there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The next one I have is self-respect.
So are we writing them under shame and guilt like we did for anger?
Yes.
And we're just doing it ourselves, whichever we want. Okay.
Yeah, wherever it feels right.
Okay.
We get a chance to start over if we have a new sheet, so we can do it neater or how we
Sure.
like to do it
Yes.
now.
The last gift I have on my sheet is behavioral change.
Yeah. I don't see any of these that wouldn't be across the board.
Yeah, me too. Deborah.
Yeah. I think this speaks more to the values in shame.
Mhm.
Because you can feel all of those things softly, at the medium state, or intensely as a result of your actions, or as a result of what you were about to do. And your shame can stop you from doing things. Maybe it's more like your shame and anxiety can stop you from doing things. Because anxiety is, your future preparer. Don't do that or you'll feel like this.
Mm.
Are you ready to move on to the next one? Our last one for the angers?
Yeah.
We're going to look at hatred, a profound mirror, which is really about looking at those parts of yourself that you have ignored, repressed, suppressed, decided that they're not right for you, been shamed out of. So it starts with intense awareness.
Mm.
Right? And have you ever experienced soft hatred? What does soft hatred feel like?
No.
Hatred is a generally very intense emotion. It shows
Yeah.
up and gives you piercing vision into what you're not okay with.
Well, I think I'm softer on my hatred of leaf blowers than I am people who hunt and massacre wolves. So, I think there's range, right? There's a little range there.
There you go. There you go.
They're all intense to a certain
It
degree.
can be, I suppose, on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't write my congressman about leaf blowers. I haven't written my congressman about leaf blowers. Whereas,
There you go. There's your anger at work for you. The next one is piercing vision. So we have intense awareness, piercing vision.
we don't have that. I like that though. We don't have that on, I don't have that on mine, but
I don't either.
Mm-mm.
I like that. Piercing vision. Ooh. We had a lot of that going on in Portland this last summer. I had a lot of that going on. A lot of piercing vision.
Yeah, and Seattle, I imagine.
Yes, yes. And in San Francisco and Oakland. Yes. LA, I hear.
The next one is sudden evolution.
Hmm. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Hatred is about pushing away from you with all your might something that is a part of you. So
Whoa, say that again.
Yeah.
hatred is about pushing away from you with all your might something that is part of you.
That explains more why you say it arises in the presence of your shadow. I understand that now. It's good. Thank you for that.
Yes, that is good. By the way, it's wonderful to be with a group of people that you can say that and everybody gets it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm just appreciating that in the moment. Okay, I'm going to mark that on my little thing. It's happiness or joy.
Mark it on your chart. Because you finish it pushing away from you with all your might, something that you own,
That
something.
is part of us.
Yeah.
It's almost as if you've locked up a part of yourself and you're trying to throw away that key. And that part of yourself is banging on the door and saying, look at me.
Mhm.
Wow.
My goodness, this is intense work.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
But it's interesting because you hate it so much. Like I had a really angry mother, really angry, a lot. And so then I ended up having a daughter-in-law that was very angry and hard on my grandchildren. And so but I didn't buy into my anger because I wasn't angry like my mother. So I said, well, I'm not angry, but I probably was just the opposite, strongly angry. Just not in the same way she was.
Right. As in you didn't express it at your children,
Right.
but perhaps you did it to yourself or it came out in some other way.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can express your anger and be very well organized or have a very clean house, right? It can come out in other ways
Yeah.
without actually ever addressing the root of your anger.
That happened to me for years and years and years. I couldn't clean my house without just feeling livid. Just so much anger and hatred, and it wasn't until that I really started doing this work and really started seeing what was really going on when I cleaned my house. And it was all muscle memory, right? Too. It was all bound up in the action itself. But yeah. And it totally flipped for me. But it took years for it to finally make the whole flip. Yeah.
Right. If you start looking at what's my motivation for this action, and if the motivation is coming from being shamed for having a dirty house, then yeah, you could feel angry about it every time. You're like, oh, my house is dirty. This means I'm a bad person and I have to fix it. Rather
Yeah,
than
it was definitely old trauma that was coming up to be healed every time.
Mm.
But I wasn't dealing with it. I was just fighting the house cleaning.
right.
It's never the toothpaste cap, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So hatred is really, I often feel like hatred often starts because of your interaction with somebody else.
But it can become a self-hatred.
Oh, yes. Yes. But the way I think about hatred is I feel like it never originates from within you. It
Right.
always comes from outside of you in some way, right? Maybe a caregiver also hates spiders and they pass that fear and repulsion onto you. And so you unthinking, oh, you're, oh, spiders, oh, so gross, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't ever look at that and let yourself really feel that and process the whole memory, then you're going to unthinkingly hate spiders without ever understanding, well, what part of me am I throwing out, or what part of me am I not listening to? So you've never actually been given the chance to decide if you hate spiders or not. You've just been in some way like mirroring somebody else's emotional response to something.
Well, you can sure see that in groups of people who hate other groups of people.
We saw it in the January 6th, it
Yeah,
just all came to a head and just,
that is who I was thinking of.
yeah, they felt given the opportunity and that was out there, and boy, they met it and expressed it.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. But I see it's hate in there,
Oh yeah.
and the hate might have come from their parents. It just kind of got put on the country.
And at some level, that's what was happening with me with house cleaning is that I had embodied, or yeah, it embodied some experience that was what was coming up every time, and I wasn't dealing with it. So
Right,
yeah,
well,
that awareness that it was something that could be dealt with was like a big step. It just took a while.
So can I ask you a question, Deborah?
Oh yeah,
Do you still have a clean house?
I do not. I have found my level. I found my acceptable level, and I have found ways to. I made that flip from I have to do this and it has to be this way, and and
Mhm.
all the memories that were associated with taking on a household very young, being
Mhm.
responsible for a household very
Yeah,
young.
yeah,
But I flipped that to, this is a sacred act I do for me.
yeah.
And
I've started doing
but it
that.
took a while to make that transition. There were some bumps along the way,
Yeah.
but yeah, now I feel like I do it for me because I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Deborah
that-
thinks it's a
Keep
clean
going,
house.
Keep going.
Maybe
That
after this course.
That could be cooking, it could be caring for children or for pets, it could be any of those things.
Anything, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially any repetitive tasks, or especially those tasks that society puts on you as a man or as a woman. The things that you're supposed to do, act, I feel like,
Right.
right?
And I think that is what we're talking about, right? Like hatred is that thing that's in us. So, I could judge people out there who hate other people, or I can take care of the hatred I feel about things that are pointed towards me, resolve those, create that energy of resolution.
Right. I mean,
Not always that clear.
when you're feeling hatred, it always points back to you, and like, what part of myself have I thrown out? What part of myself have I disallowed or cut off? What part of myself wants to come back? What part of myself can I not accept?
Wait, say that last part, Andrew.
What part of myself wants to come back? What part of myself can I not accept?
So for me, it would be being angry.
There you go. I'd like to into the time. It's a few minutes after noon, so afternoon my time anyway. I know we're scattered a bit across the country here. Let's see, have we gotten all of the gifts for hatred? Intense awareness, piercing vision, sudden evolution, and shadow work.
That's it.
Yeah. We'll get recordings of these. Will we get recordings of these? Angela? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna post recordings for you, and I'll give you a private link that you can use to access these. These will just be for you to see. Nobody else will have the link.
Thank you.
And our homework is to keep going, matching the feelings with gifts.
Yes. So
So is that homework, or are we supposed to?
I'm thinking I'd like to do that in class.
Okay.
Yeah,
think this has been really good for us in class. What I would like you to do for homework is keep using the daily emotion chart
Mhm.
just as a way to increase your emotional self-awareness. And then I want you to start noticing when you feel grounded. What are you doing? Just as you are naturally going through your day, when you notice that you're feeling grounded.
Okay.
And connect it to, well, what was I doing at that time? Was I having a conversation? Was I relaxing? What was I doing?
Okay.
Anjan, if you are going to send the different intelligence inside your emotions, is there any way to space it so we could add these gifts rather than just putting them all in the margins?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can send you a Word document. I can send it to you as a Word document so that you can modify it yourself, but you have to agree
Great.
not to print it out or publish it or anything. This
Yeah.
is for you.
Yes.
That's really helpful.
I
We'll
don't know that I
respect
have
Carla.
skills
Thank
to
you.
do that. You could just send a PDF to the rest of us? Or, I don't know how to do the Word thing.
Okay, well, if you don't know how to do Word, that's fine. You can still just print it out.
Okay,
You can print it out from Word as easily as from a PDF.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Any last questions before we say goodbye for the day?
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I just
To
want to say
everybody.
thank you so much.
Good to
So
have a
grateful.
small group.
I'm
Yeah.
yes, very important here. Something that I'd like to do is to just set up a group email between us so
Mhm.
that if somebody has questions or wants to share something that they realized or noticed that that they can, it will just be between us with the email addresses that you've provided. Is it okay if I share your emails with each other?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
And
course.
and all you need to do to reply to this, just hit reply all in your email, and that way it will reply to everybody,
Okay.
and that will
Okay.
make it so that everybody gets the reply and can continue the conversation.
That'll be great. Thank you. Thank you all. I almost didn't do this course, but I am so happy I did. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Candace,
Good.
for encouraging
Yeah,
me.
too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you for doing this with me.
See you on Wednesday.
See you on
Okay.
Wednesday.